Live.
Oh, we're live. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking some time out of your Saturday to be here with us. I'm Veronica. We're going to take some time to introduce each other or ourselves. We're each going to take some time to let you know who we are. We do have another team member who should be joining soon, so he will introduce himself when he does join. I'll start off with myself. My name is Veronica. For those of you guys that do not know me, I've been an interpreter in the Tri-Cities for the last 10 years. I do medical, social, L&I, and conference interpretation, and I'm happy to be a part of this movement.
Hi, my name's Leanna, and I'm also a Washington Interpreter Secretary. I've been an interpreter since 2006. I've been doing L&I work for the last 4 years, and I'm in the Tacoma, Seattle area. And yeah, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Liana. My name is Juan Medina Blois, and I'm actually one of the board members too here. I have been an interpreter since 2008, medical and social services. Most of you that have been following what we do, you know that we have formed this movement, this labor organization, Washington Interpreters, with the hope of winning representation for L&I interpreters. You have seen our advocacy. And this is the second live stream that we are conducting today. And as Veronica said earlier, we're having another team member, Anastasio. He's going to be logging in soon. We may have a couple of more team members. We're not sure. But we have a whole program here to go through and talk to you guys. And we're going to be interacting with you, those of you that choose to do so. We're going to be here from 12 to 2 p.m. And we have updates and resources, a whole program. So thank you for joining in. In the meantime, let's give our friend Anastasio a couple of more minutes to log in. Feel free to say hi through the chat. Chat is live right now. And you could send in your questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to say. And we'll go from there.
Seems like we have George saying hi. Hi, George.
So, hi, George.
Hello, George.
So, and then I see, my name is Ernesto. Ernesto, hello. Hi. Let's see. So, are you guys able to see the chat?
I can see the chat. There we go. I can see the chat, but I cannot reply to it on my end.
Oh, okay. No, I get it. So I think, Veronica, if you can log in using your phone, well, not log in, actually, access the live stream. You go, using your phone, you go to YouTube, the app, if you have it. And then that way you could. Hello, Emiliano. Emiliano says, hello, everyone. Good to see you all through this meeting. Thank you. Mr. Ernesto Ramos, medical interpreter, thank you for joining us. Okay. We have or had Jorge Arredondo Renteria. Looks like he joined at 11. Sorry if you were there so early. We opened up at 12. That's the time of the program, but thank you for being here. And then I see Araceli Quesada. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I see Mina Marks. Hey, Mina, hello. I have to call you. I have gotten your messages. We have been quite busy, but we're going to get to you, I promise. Down the list, we're going to be calling you. Thank you so much for your support all the time. Quite busy, but we're going to get to you, I promise. Down the list. And we have Anastasio here.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, please excuse my tardiness, everyone. I had some technical difficulties, but I'm here.
Alrighty. So we were just introducing ourselves, addressing people joining in. We have Ian Flux. This is Laura Lobry. Nice to see you all here. Thank you, Laura, for joining in. And we're just taking 2 minutes for the introductions. and we're going to go through our program quickly. Rodrigo Arjona says, hello, everyone. So thank you, all of you joining in. If we continue saying hello to everyone, we probably don't have a program, but thank you for joining in. We're going to go through the content that we have right here. And I want to remind everyone that we're going to be sharing links with you. And if you have a comment, a concern, a question, address it through the chat. And we're going to be pretty quick to highlight your comments and address it when it's time. So there are going to be sections of this broadcast where we're going to devote some few minutes to talk to you, to interact with you, and address your questions. So why don't we just jump into the first topic, which is COVID-19 resources updates, right? So, we all know how this COVID-19 situation has been affecting us as interpreters and everybody in general, and the several programs that the federal government established for help. We have loans, we have had the unemployment benefit geared up to help everybody that has been missing work, and recently has been amended to allow independent interpreters, independent contractors such as ourselves, the self-employed, I should have said, to join in. So we have an update. So what I'm going to do is, real quick, and the whole team is going to help right here. I'm going to be sharing the screen right here, so we could show some of the updates that we have for you guys. Okay. So can you guys see this? Yes?
No.
No, not yet? Okay, we're gonna share right now.
Now we can.
Now you can. Okay, what I'm gonna do is,
Yep.
alrighty then. You can see it. 1 minute. What about now?
We see it.
You might need to lower down your live stream.
I'm also having a little technical difficulty right here with this, but
Bear with us. It's technical difficulty day. It's technical difficulty day.
Difficulty day, but I'm gonna try to see it right here.
Okay. Said, so there is no cure for a virus that dies with soap and water.
Okay, what about here? We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Think we're good. Okay, so if we see this right here, anybody that subscribed to the Employment Security Department received this. So it says right here, Employment Security Department, Washington State, e-services and phone lines will be down Saturday, April 18th, okay? So phone lines for the unemployment benefits will be down. The claims center will be closed, and e-services will be unavailable from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. This means you won't be able to log into your unemployment accounts or call the claims center tomorrow. These outages are necessary, though, so we can deliver the next big change, which is pandemic, right here, pandemic unemployment assistance application coming this weekend. If you are self-employed, here we are, as independent contractor, a part-time worker who was ineligible for regular unemployment benefits, or someone that works with a business that does not report your wages and hours to ESD, you will be able to access the new application after 8 p.m. on Saturday. So from the get-go, you are an independent contractor as an interpreter. We are self-employed, so we have to wait until today, Saturday at 8 p.m. okay? So we can access the new application. It's very bolded right here, so you know this. So if you need to take a minute, maybe take a screenshot of this or make a note, please do so, okay? A couple of seconds right here. You will be able to access a new application after 8 p.m. on Saturday. Look for eligibility details, application instructions, and more resources on our website. And speaking of our website, you have to check the refreshed website. It says we've made some changes to our website to help you navigate the newly available benefits, okay? And there is information right here for self-employed and independent contractors. So what we're going to do right here, since we had a little difficulty navigating through the different windows that I had set up for this, I'm just going to click from here. So we go and take a look at this. But before clicking there, I want to read this to you. Write down this phone number, 833-572-8400, a new way to get answers, okay? Beginning Friday, April 17th, that was yesterday. If you have general questions about unemployment benefits, call this number first, okay? So there you go. There's also a webinar, a guided webinar, and they have a webinar page. So let me go and click on the unemployment for self-employed and independent contractors information. So we all see it. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so affected by COVID-19, workers and businesses learn more about important changes and subscribe to updates about the response. Self-employed or independent contractor benefits soon available for self-employed workers. Unemployment benefits will be available soon for Washingtonians who have lost work because of the COVID-19 crisis, including freelancers, independent contractors, and other self-employed workers. The new Federal CARES Act makes this possible, and our system will be updated April 18th to process your application. Now, you just read with me that in order to call or apply, you have to wait until 8 p.m. tonight. If you are a self-employed worker who's lost income in this crisis, you may now qualify for unemployment benefits. The amount, this is very important right here, the amount of financial help varies. But if your application is approved, you will be paid at least the minimum weekly benefit amount. And if that amount is at least $1 per week, you will also receive an additional $600 weekly from March 29th to July 25th. So I know that's a mouthful. We don't mean to have all the information, but pretty straightforward right here. When you apply as a self-employed, they're going to have some time. They're going to have some time to determine how much they're going to give you. But in the meantime, you're going to get the minimum weekly benefit amount. And if that amount is at least $1, you'll receive $600 weekly. $600 weekly, okay? So those $600 are going to be there no matter what from March 29th to July 25th. Now it says download this checklist. There is a link there. We're gonna be providing those links to you guys. You have to download a guide also, then apply for regular benefits. Even though you likely don't qualify for them, this step is required before you can apply for the benefits for self-employed workers. So you do have to apply for the regular unemployment benefits, okay, even if you don't qualify, okay, but you have to do that first. They're requiring you to do that first, okay? And then there is a checklist to apply. Download the checklist and apply for expanded unemployment benefits called Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. Submit weekly claims to get paid. So every week, and one thing that you need to know about unemployment is that, as long as you didn't make more hours than you generally make, you're going to receive something. So if you have just a few hours a week, 10, 15 or whatever, you're going to get something. They'll adjust that plus the $600. Just keep that in mind. Don't think that because you worked a couple of hours as an interpreter, you shouldn't qualify for unemployment. Report weekly how many hours you're making. They'll adjust and still give you that benefit of $600 a week. It says right here, you must apply for regular unemployment benefits before you can apply for the expanded benefits for people impacted by COVID-19. Please fill out the online application the best you can. And then key information, you have to create an account, okay? If you only worked as a self-employed person in the last 18 months, list no employers when asked. But if you also worked as an employee for a business, give that information. The job search requirement is optional during this crisis. So generally, when you apply for unemployment, they have you go to apply for places and have a list of places that you applied for to maintain that benefit. So it is optional under this pandemic unemployment benefit. Okay, so you can answer no. It won't affect your benefits. We also ask if you're able and available for work. Move to step 2 when you're denied regular benefits. For some, this will be immediate. For others, it may take a few weeks. There you go. So when you're denied your regular benefits, okay, you have to move to step 2 when you're denied the regular benefits. For some, this will be immediate, okay, when you're denied. For others, it may take a few weeks. ESD staff may call you to ask for more information during this time. Please answer your phone. The call will be from an unlisted number. So I guess to recap, real quick, you have to wait until 8 p.m. tonight to start applying or calling. They will take some time to deny you or to determine how much you're going to make. You're going to have to upload your information. Generally, that's your 1099 from the previous year. And they'll determine how much money you're going to get weekly. But while they're determining that, you're going to get the minimum weekly benefit amount. If it's at least $1, you'll receive $600 weekly additionally anyways. So I hope this makes sense. I hope this helps, okay? In the meantime, there's also something that I want to share with you, which is another extra benefit added to this. Something that I want to share with you, which is another extra benefit added to this. Something that I want to share with you, which is another extra benefit added to this. Something that I want to share with you, which is another extra benefit. Are we okay? Something that I want to share with you.
I don't know. It seems like something's repeating itself.
It's repeating itself. It's caught in a loop.
Yeah.
It's caught in a loop.
I don't know. It seems like something's repeating itself.
It's repeating itself. It's caught in a loop.
Yeah.
It's caught in a loop.
I don't know. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna try to text them.
It's caught in a loop.
Yeah.
It's caught in a loop.
I don't know. Let me see if I can.
Can you guys hear this? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear
Okay,
you.
now we can.
So looks like we had a very bad technical difficulty. Sorry about that, everyone. I'm sharing my screen right here. And I really apologize for that. But what I was saying is I want to share this, the last piece of the unemployment or the benefit from the government that's been available as of this week, Friday, April 17th. Can you guys see this, please?
Yeah.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, I'm very sorry about the technical difficulties. It says right here, DSHS offers emergency cash to residents not eligible for other programs. And I want to credit Jenny. I don't know if you're watching, Jenny Alton. She sent me this information along with the unemployment benefits. And I think we all had it at some point. If you're not speaking, if you could please mute your mic, that'll be great. And then it says right here, Olympia, Washington, emergency cash payments are now being made available to residents of Washington state, regardless of their citizenship status. This is huge. Who are not eligible for other cash assistance programs during the pandemic, officials said Friday. The payments range from $363 for a single person to a maximum of $1,121 for a household of 8 or more people, and can be made once in a 12-month period. Officials estimate that more than 175,000 households may be eligible for the payments through the Disaster Cash Assistance Program as a result of Governor Inslee's emergency declaration over the COVID-19 pandemic. Residents can apply for the payments through the Department of Social and Health Services. The assistance is available to all Washington families and people without children who meet the income and resource limits of the program. Having access to this emergency aid is critically important to helping people meet their immediate basic needs like shelter, costs, utilities, clothing, minor medical care, household supplies, and transportation costs for work, said Babs Roberts. The cash assistance is available to Washington residents regardless of citizenship status and does not require applicants to provide a social security number. So we're gonna stop here for a few seconds. Just remember this. Don't be afraid to apply for this, even if you don't have a citizenship status or social security number. I'm not an immigration lawyer. I'm not gonna be giving you immigration advice, but take this information as it is. If you do not have a social security number, and if you do not have, citizenship status, whatever that is, you are encouraged to apply. Okay? So there you go. Once approved, people will receive their benefits on an existing electronic benefit transfer or EBT card, or a new EBT card will be sent via U.S. mail. So even if you don't have an EBT card, okay, your benefit card from DSHS, you'll get it over the mail. So just apply. Start applying, because these benefits run out fast, just like the loans got out of money real quick, the funds for those loans. It says right here, people can apply for DCAP online at Washington Connection Center. WashingtonConnection.org, and then call the customer service contact center at 877-501-2233 to complete the required interview. People can also call 877-501-2233 to complete the entire application process over the phone. So with that, I think our colleagues right here, Anastasio and our staff are here, they are sending me some links to also share with you guys. I'm going to be sharing it, but we're going to be moving into the next topic where Anastasio and our other team members will be taking the lead, so I could provide you with those links. Thank you so much for paying attention, and I hope this information helps you greatly and benefits all of us. Let me stop sharing the screen right here so we go back to our webcams, and we're back here. So the first topic of today, and it says right here, ULS closed in-person jobs, okay? And I don't know if you got that email from ULS. They closed in-person jobs. Do you prefer to cover in-person appointments, or do you prefer to work from home? That's going to be one of the topics that we'll be exploring right here. In the meantime, let me put up the presentation that we have showing you the timeline of not only our petition that ties into this, and it has also ULS's and HCA's determination that made ULS close in-person jobs, and Anastasio will be leading the way with this along with the other staff members. Just give me one more minute so I could share it, and we apologize again for any technical difficulties. Sorry about that. See something here. Okay, I think now I can share it and you guys can see it.
Yes, we can.
Can you guys see this? Okay, so I'm going to start with this, and then if Vero or Liana could help a little bit while Anastasio gets ready. Here we go. allow L&I interpreters to work from home and be compensated by the in-person fee schedule. This is something that we've talked about before. If you have been to the webinars, you've seen this before. We created this on March 29th and posted it online on March 30th. And we were just asking, L&I to allow us to get paid by the in-person fee schedule if we're going to be staying at home or using telephonics. I think you've seen this petition. More than 340 people, 350 people signed the petition. And we also, as you see right here, on April 2nd, we forwarded the petition before, but we emailed Joel Sacks and the governor asking them to change that policy and request a meeting with them. Okay? And then right here, you see that on April 3rd, they changed the policy in big part because of our advocacy, right? And they allowed in-person interpreters to provide video or telephonic interpretation when appropriate. So right here, I just wanted to read this because some of you didn't have the chance to see this. Some people, some fellow interpreters have had some questions. And I just wanted to explain this policy a little bit from the slides and the presentation, the email that L&I provided. So we created these slides. It says this temporary policy expands coverage to allow in-person interpreters to provide video interpretation or telephonic interpretation. Okay. It says this policy allows for the temporary coverage of an in-person interpreter during a telehealth visit using video. This is known as video interpretation. Video interpretation cannot be performed when the worker and interpreter are in the same location. All right. If the appointment occurs via telephone, the provider may either use an in-person interpreter in a three-way call or one of the two contracted vendors. This is known as telephonics interpretation. Are you still seeing this?
We can't see it anymore, Juan.
You can't see it anymore.
It's a black screen.
It's a black screen. Looks like we have a lot of technical difficulties. Don't worry. We're going to put it up again. Sorry about that, guys, again. We're doing everything that we've done before. What about now?
It's back.
It's back. Sorry about that. Okay. So we're going to move to the next slide right here. Okay. So requirements for this is the provider initiates a video or
requirements.
You can't?
I think you need to click the slide again. We can see your slides on the side, 1, 2, 3, 4. But the actual slide you're reading, we cannot see.
Okay. What about now?
We can see it now.
Okay. So the requirements for interpretation, we apologize again. It says the provider initiates a video or telephonic visit. Interpreters are not authorized to begin the visit. The interpreter services appointment record. The interpreter must submit an interpreter services appointment record or ISAR, which is your voucher, for in-person interpretation. And this is very important right here. If the interpreter provides interpretive services in the clinic with the provider's signature must be obtained for the ISAR. And you have to use this code right here, 9989M. Those of you that have been doing regular L&I appointments and billing regularly, this is the code for appointments for in-person interpretation, doctor's visits, whatever you do as an interpreter, 9989M. If you've been to my workshop, you understand a little bit more about this. Now, when it comes to video interpretation, if the interpreter provides interpretive services via video, document video in the provider's signature line on the ISAR. So when you need to get the provider's signature on that space, you have to put video. That's it. That's all you need to do. Okay? And then for video interpretation services, when there is only one worker, that's 9989M, of course, and then 9988M for group interpretation, but we're not focusing on that. We're focusing on individual interpretation. If you work for an agency and you do a group appointment, they'll instruct you with this, but this is for those of you that work by yourself, okay? You bill L&I directly, you have to use this code, all right? And write video in the provider's signature line on the ISAR. Okay, now telephonic interpretation. If the interpreter provides interpretive services via phone, document telephone in the provider's signature line on the ISAR. use billing code 9999M for telephone interpretation services. And I want to talk, almost ending this right here, of a confusion. So see right here, 9989M, individual interpretation. For video, as you saw, this is the code as well. It's 87 cents a minute. That hasn't changed, by the way, okay? And then when it comes to telephonics, this is where there's some confusion. When billing for telephone interpretive services, use billing code 9999M. Now, this needs clarification, okay? Because you're told to use this code, which is used for language link. The fee is 62 per minute for all languages, okay? Now, that's the company they use for telephonics. Now, it wasn't completely clear whether L&I is going to pay for telephonics appointments at 62 cents per minute. And I haven't billed for a telephonics appointment yet. We had some difficulty getting clarification for this. But if you have billed L&I already for telephonics, see how much you get, because you're supposed to get the in-person rate. That's the update on the policy. So you get paid for an in-person, to get at the same rate as in-person appointments, okay? This is what they pay to Language Link. Shouldn't be what we get paid under this telephonics policy that allows us to use it as in-person interpreters. So, important to fix right here. Wait time isn't authorized under this temporary policy for interpretive services provided via telephone. And can Liana and Vero please help explain to our audience, why is waiting time important for us to get, even if we're doing telephonics or video?
Okay, this is Liana. One of the reasons why we feel like it's important, or I feel that it's important to be getting paid for the waiting time, is because even though you're not there personally, you still have to put aside some time to be able to get the, to set up, maybe it is your video camera, or, all of these things like we have to do here to set up for these webinars. It takes time and it takes preparation. It takes, you still have to block yourself out from doing whatever it is that you're doing at home with your family or other things that you would normally be doing. So in order for us to be paid, it would be also covering your time prior to the telephonic or video interpretation, and also would be relevant or equal to in-person interpretation.
All righty, that explains it in a very thorough way. Veronica, would you like to add something to this?
No, I think Liana did a pretty good job of explaining it.
Thank you.
Yes. So it is important, because we need to be getting paid as soon as we are contacted by the phone, regardless of whether or not the appointment has started. This is something very important. A phone call could be 1 or 2 minutes. That's very important to understand. Now, what we have right here is HCA. I'm not sure if Anastasio is ready, so he could help us with this. He was having some technical difficulties. Are you there, Anastasio?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. So
Okay,
if you don't mind, I'll be reading this communication from ULS. And Anastasio, by the way, you know him. If you were here in the last broadcast, you understand his experience. He was a member of Local 1671 for years, served in different committees, and has negotiated bargaining contracts with the state, with HCA. He understands a lot better than many of us, some of these things. Not that we don't, but we're going to read this and let him take the lead on this. He has a lot to say when it comes to this. Universal sent this email on the 7th, April 7th. It says, "Dear requesters and interpreters, now that you have seen the timeline of our petition asking L&I to let us in-person interpreters get paid for the same fee schedule when covering telephonics and video, it's very interesting that just a few days HCA decided to do this. It says right here, in response to COVID-19 and measures taken by the state of Washington to practice social distancing, the HCA, or Healthcare Authority, has implemented an emergency amendment to our face-to-face interpretation contract with Universal Language. Now, before getting into anything, we want you to understand that ULS didn't implement this. They are following directives from HCA, which has a bargaining contract with Local 1671 from WUFC. So we're not defending anybody right here, but I think we have to be fair right here. This is not ULS's doing. They're following directives. We just have to be fair. It says right here, effective April 16th, all HCA Medicaid jobs will be completed over the phone for the duration of the state of emergency or until further notice. Everything over the phone. That's it. Not even giving the opportunity to in-person interpreters that choose to work to go and work, live. It said this means that interpreters will only be able to service jobs remotely over the phone, ensuring that client needs are met without putting the parties at risk or contributing to the spread of COVID-19. All in-person jobs that are already pre-scheduled will be converted to over the phone. If extenuating circumstances require an in-person interpreter, requesters must contact Universal Language directly. Then Anastasio, if you could please expand on this.
Yes, you can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I was having difficulty hearing you. There was like robotic, but I understand what's being expressed there as I read. And basically, what I would like to point out in this particular communication is that, as you pointed out, Local 1671 is the bargaining organization that bargains on behalf of interpreters when it comes to the healthcare authority contract. But just recently, when they obtained that right to be able to work from home and bill at an in-person rate, a week later or so, on the 16th, what I like to call it, they lost their ability to remain working in person. Now, I haven't heard anybody, in defense of in-person interpreting for HCA interpreters. I haven't heard their union stand up for them. I haven't heard a complaint come out of that. I don't see anybody, looking at it as a bad thing. I'm not sure why. In my experience, I would consider that losing your ability to work in person, regardless if we're in the middle of this pandemic or not, I consider that an option that unless the governor himself orders us to stay home and not work in person, I consider that an option that we should have. So by healthcare authority interpreters that work the healthcare authority contract, by them not being given that option, and by having an existing union that's supposed to be advocating for them, I just find that interesting, to say the least, that they haven't, no one said anything about that. Now, in contrast to L&I interpreters, we are still able to bill in person, and this is why we're bringing these issues up right now. We're trying to gauge what your perspective is, if you want to hold on to that ability to start to continue working in person and or at home, as we recently obtained that right to work from home, as Juan has explained all the pay rates and codes. So we're working on something where we could continue advocating for L&I interpreters to continue working in person. I believe that's very important still. But I'm also very intrigued of why the HCA has obligated interpreters that work HCA contract to stay home and not have the ability to work in person. I'm very intrigued by that. I consider that a big loss for those interpreters. I don't think that you have access to the same amount of work if you're at home. I think the access to work is confined to the portal, and whatever clinics or whatever jobs are available are not going to be the same amount as if you were going in person. So I think that you're very limited in that sense. And by having an organization that's been established there for years, which I was part of, and which has negotiated, bargained on their behalf, I don't see that as a good thing. I don't see that they're standing up. I don't see that they have used any of their leverage, any of their representation, political clout in favor of their interpreters. So all those are the things that come to mind right now. And this is why we're stepping up at this moment to see what interpreters really would like to see happen. to see if they're interested in keeping their ability to bill in person, or to work from home and bill at in-person rates, get paid the same. Either or, we're very interested in that. Personally, I would like to keep both. I would like to keep my ability to work in person. I would like to keep my ability to work from home if I have to. I think that is my decision right now, my personal decision, whether I risk myself, whether I go and advocate as well for hazardous pay, or as others call it, courageous pay or courageous work pay. I think that would be more options for independent contractors, for independent interpreters to decide among themselves, and not allow the healthcare authority or L&I to decide for them without taking them in consideration. I think this is where we stand up on behalf of all interpreters to defend those options. I think that's what I have to add in regards to these sections of the slides.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Anastasio. That's a lot of information that is pretty useful, and it highlights exactly, what's going on behind the scenes. We cannot always pinpoint exactly, who's at fault or who does what, but we work hard to uncover these things, and these are issues that we need to be aware of, right? Especially as L&I interpreters. And I think, Anastasio, you said before, you particularly would not call interpreters a certain label. You would not call interpreters court interpreters or L&I interpreters. We're all interpreters, right? But it seems like because of the different industries that we serve, but not only that, because of the division that some groups have started, we have had to address this as, diverse groups and protect our interests for the different sectors that we work for. So thank you for that explanation. I am sharing some links with the audience right now. And Liana and Veronica, would you please comment on this and give us your thoughts when it comes to video and telephonics, being favored right now when it comes to, this COVID-19 situation, your experience during through your work in Tri-Cities as well with these technologies?
So this is Veronica. Like I mentioned earlier, I do L&Is, and I also do some medical and social appointments. I do those through ULS, so I got this email as well. One of the issues that some of my coworkers have had, because I haven't been able to catch a job since they went live with the OPI system, but I had one of my coworkers mention to me yesterday that they haven't gotten it down yet. The OPI system isn't really working. Therefore, they're not really, since the system isn't working, they're not working. For some reason, the providers aren't connecting. So they're losing jobs that this system was supposed to help get more of. I'm not sure if that makes sense. So if we could continue to have in-person the way we currently have in-person interpretation, and allow the providers to decide, because if the providers are deciding to do in-person, is because they should have everything that they need, the personal protective equipment, anything that we need. And some of those notes, those of you guys that do ULS, a lot of the requesters did put in the notes that they had personal protective equipment for the interpreters to use. So if the providers are wanting us to go in there in person, is because they're ready and they're prepared for us to do it in a safe manner. So why take away the ability to do it in person if they're being safe with it? I don't know if anybody else would like to add anything else to that.
This is Leanna, and yes, I agree with Veronica in regards to what she's saying. Another thing to keep in mind is, when the governor said, that they were going to keep essential workers still working. To me, automatically, there's a lot of clinics that are doing the rehabs, physical therapy, chiropractors, that these are essentials to the injured workers. Therefore, they believe that we are also essential workers. So if they're open for business, if they're, like Veronica said, taking the precautions needed to be able to service people, sometimes the most vulnerable because of their injuries, then we should be allowed to also go in person and serve them as well. I know they have a lot of offices have done it in a way where they minimize the people in the rooms. They are even open 6 days out of the week now instead of 5. So I believe it would be a great idea to still keep us working if we choose to do so.
Alrighty, thank you for that. And we're going to be addressing some of the comments on the chat. But before that, I want to show you that, um, you know, I want to show you that you've seen these amendments that we have proposed before a few weeks ago when we went to Olympia, and this is about the healthcare, and this was Anastasio's idea, but we're going to focus on this big amendment right here that we had proposed, and it's underlined right here. It talks about the dual system, but we're going to focus on this amendment that was actually also an idea that Anastasio came up with. We refined it because of this exact situation. And you see why this was important to propose. It says for each appointment at which spoken language interpreter services are required, each state agency must make a reasonable effort to arrange for such services to be provided by an in-person language access provider before arranging for a contracted entity to provide such services using telephonic or video remote technologies. And this is why, we were so adamant about this and we fought for this amendment, even though it wasn't implemented the way we wanted to. And we understand this COVID-19 situation is an emergency. Like Liana pointed out, we are considered essential workers, even though it may not be completely defined through the governor's directives and the communication he shared he released that communication explaining essential workers, but we are in the healthcare system. We are healthcare providers. You, as an interpreter, are a provider in the healthcare system. If you work for L&I, if you contract directly with L&I, you have an L&I provider number. So therefore, you are an essential worker. So it's just troubling when we see that it's pretty quick, pretty easy for some government agencies to say, okay, no, everybody's going to switch to the phone, even though you are essential workers, even though, you want to do this, even though you're taking, precautions, even though you're taking the necessary measures to protect yourself. No, you're going to have to work from home. And so we just wanted to show you this so you see that this is very important. I'm going to stop sharing right now, okay, and go back to our cam and address everybody else. I think we see each other here. With that said, let's go to some of the chat because I do have a couple of questions right here on the banner, okay, that Anastasio and the team are going to address with you. And I'll be concentrating on going through the questions in the chat. Let's address Araceli Quezada right here because she shared something very important. And we're going to be trying to give everyone the chance to, be highlighted here. She has this question. There was a FQA that was released by L&I stating that, quote, the reimbursement code 9999M for non-face-to-face visit, that would be the telephonics, cannot be changed and will be paid at the contracted rate of 62 cents. So if you saw, I was sharing with you the slide from L&I's policy that was released, that's the rate they had for language link, and we need a clarification on that. Somebody else, as you were sharing this, Araceli, somebody else emailed me right away and shared me that communication. Share with me that communication from L&I. And so you were right. They're saying right now that cannot be changed. Now, we are getting in-person rates, okay, for video interpretation, but why couldn't we get in-person rates for telephonics? Video with L&I was done through Lionbridge. Okay, so if they could change the rate to allow us to get the same rate as we do in person, why couldn't they change this rate? So this is something very important. With that said, let me see. There's not a lot of chat comments about this. So thank you everybody for participating. Anastasio and the staff, can you please address this right here, Anastasio?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to mind when I hear this, I think that there's a piece of the puzzle that's missing here. One thing is an existing contract with CTS Language Link Telephonic, and like you put it, there's an existing contract with Lionbridge. So those existing contracts have their own pay rates established. Those can't be changed because they're already signed and done and over with. But that's an agreement that they have. When we managed to persuade, I guess, or L&I to allow us to work from home and bill at in-person rate, that's completely a temporary policy that was adopted because of the situation. So it's not bound by those previous agreements. And in my interpretation of the policy change, we're supposed to charge the same rate as if we would have been there in person. What this allows L&I interpreters to do is to not only work and bill at the same rate, but to be able to work, because the interpreters that are registered with Lionbridge and with CTS Language Link, they are not necessarily the same interpreters that used to work L&I jobs in person. So if I can give you an example here of what I mean. Before L&I interpreters were able to work from home and bill at in-person rates, they were left out of the game completely when we were told that we couldn't bill from home and we couldn't work in person either. We were left out of the game there. So what needed to be, what I wanted to do was register with CTS myself so I can do some work over the phone. They didn't even have a space. They weren't hiring. They weren't taking any new interpreters. And the interpreter pool that they did have, it did not reflect the interpreters that were working regular L&I jobs. So we were completely left out. Once they changed their policy and now we're able to go back, those interpreters that were doing telephonic are still doing their same work, their same jobs, but that doesn't really mean that they're interfering with our usual L&I jobs. I know that might be a little confusing there. I could explain it a little bit better, but they're two separate contracts. That's the main thing here. There's a contract for their telephonic and their rates, and then there's what we were able to improvise here temporarily because of our petition.
So Anastasia, just to clarify, I guess just to tell the people that are listening to us, what you're trying to say is our contracts were directly with L&I. This is why we are getting paid our original contract amount, which is the 58 cents a minute, right?
No,
Or
87 cents a minute.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and we don't have a contract. There's just a stated rate of pay that we bill L&I for. We don't have a
Right.
contract yet. And in the future, when we are able to represent L&I interpreters via our movement, Washington Interpreters, then that bargaining team would represent interpreters and negotiate an actual contract with actual established rates. But in the meantime, we're just advocating, and we're just asking L&I to do reasonable changes to improvise on the go, because we're going through a pandemic, which they don't have all the answers to. And since we are the people, we are stakeholders, we are the interpreters are being affected negatively by these changes, when we have to stand up for ourselves and for others, and suggest the necessary changes that benefit us.
If I may, we have Araceli Quezada right here with a very important question. It says, and this is something we're going to transition into, Araceli, but hey, thank you for beating us to the punch. It says right here, can we ask L&I to implement a temporary payment policy to increase telephonic pay? I'm going to let Anastasio go in because he's ready to be at it. And everyone else will chime in. I know he's getting excited about this. You guys don't know, but we have regular board meetings. We talk about these things, and we were at it. Oh, boy. Go ahead, Anastasio, please.
Wow. It's a very good question. Thank you. But once again, it goes back to the existing contracts, and it goes back to continued communication with L&I, transitioning, or their steer committee, the people that we were talking to not too long ago, last week on the 14th. We still have to advocate. We have to. These are the details that we didn't want to give away before. This is part of the advocacy that our movement is doing. We really want to look into every aspect of the way we are interpreting, or are made or forced to interpret because of the pandemic. If we stay home, we want to make sure we earn the same as if we would have been in person. If we are in person and we're able to do it without any extra risk, then we want to continue to do that. If we're going to be doing over the phone, of course, we want to iron out those details. Is there waiting time? No waiting time, as Liana had put it. We want to make sure that L&I is not as strict on implementing their usual rules or policies, because this is a very highly unusual situation, and we don't want to be shorted either by working. We want to make sure that if we cover a job that usually takes an hour, we want to be able to bill that hour. We want to make sure that we have appropriate time to set up. We want to make sure that we don't lose out on a no-show that when we could have accepted a job somewhere else. These are the luxuries that we consider holding on to. So to address that one specifically, the answer would be continued communication with L&I, which we have already established, to make them aware of these details. Now, we don't have a solution for that yet, and even if we did have one, as far as I'm concerned, it goes through their committee. They have to take it in consideration. They have to see the pros and cons of it. But we would definitely, as far as I'm concerned, I would definitely support more changes to the policy, or improvisations, temporary improvisations, I would call it, to better suit our interpreters.
Thank you for saying that. I would want to add, on top of everything that Anastasio said, I mean, he just went in there and he gave you everything. So it's really hard to follow that. But I would want to remind you guys that what we're doing right now as a movement, our advocacy is just that, advocacy. We cannot negotiate with L&I on behalf of anyone, all of us. We want to do that once we gain legal representation through winning an election. Hopefully you guys vote for us and we are able to represent you. But in the meantime, that advocacy, even though we may be leading the way in some of these things, that advocacy is depending on all of you guys supporting our efforts, signing the petitions, calling, emailing L&I staff, legislators, and being active. Be an active part of this, okay? So with that said, in the banner right here, we started talking about how HCA ULS closed in-person jobs. Now, there's a question here that ties into all of this, and Anastasio has been addressing some of this as well. Do you prefer to cover in-person appointments or to work from home? Why are we asking this question? Because we have interpreters telling us, well, if the government is giving us unemployment plus $600 a week, and we could work a little bit from home, then why stress about this? Some interpreters have given me personally that feedback. At the same time, I personally consider I wouldn't prefer to stay at home, especially because of what we just saw from L&I. They're not going to pay you telephonics appointments at the same rates. So we have to keep constantly, without having the right to negotiate with them, asking, advocating for this. And I think in-person appointments as essential workers are there. They haven't changed that policy thanks to our advocacy together and as individuals. But what do you guys think? Do you guys prefer to work from home? And let's address the chat questions right here, the chat comments. If and Narinder, I got your message, Narinder right here. I am Narinder. I need help also. I do have you on queue to call you, and we could schedule one-on-one. I just wanted to acknowledge that right away. But if you guys can, through the chat, start answering, do you guys prefer, do you guys prefer to cover in-person appointments or to work from home? If you prefer in-person, just type in-person and share it with the chat. If you prefer from home, just type from home so we gauge your responses right here and address you accordingly, please.
Or be able to do it to both.
Or both. There you go. In person, type in person. From home, or both, please. And we see here Narinder from home. Thanks. Okay, anybody else? Martha? In person? Okay. Okay. Araceli? Both. Ernesto Ramos, both. Thank you guys for your responses. Anybody else? A couple of more minutes and then we'll address all of these things.
We should ask our own staff, what do they prefer?
There you go.
Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to mute myself. I think I would prefer both too. I mean, whatever keeps us busy right now. If you see it the way I see it, I've worked most of my life. I think I started working when I was 14, and then since I turned 18, I've always worked. I've never not worked. So if I have the opportunity to leave my house, I'm taking it, especially right now when everybody's quarantined. But then if there's not enough work, well, then I'll do it from home, whatever keeps us working.
Yeah,
Yes,
same here. I would do both.
me too. I would prefer both. Lane George, both. Lulu Iniguez, both. Lane George phone, sorry. Emiliano in person. So we have, mixed responses, but I think, it's really the general understanding that we would prefer to have all these options. So we decide what we want to do instead of having it imposed to us. I think that's the point, isn't it, Anastasio?
Yes, exactly. To have the freedom that we to choose, and also to take to defend what we just achieved or obtained. You know, we weren't able to work from home and get and bill at the same in-person rate. So we want to defend that. We want to make sure that that sticks around. That completely puts us in a different light compared to other forms of interpretation. We have more options. We have mileage reimbursement, which we've always been able to count on, compared to other agencies or organizations who have bargained their mileage reimbursement away. We still have that option, which is sometimes it can make or break you. You know, you could either not take a job somewhere because of a 20-30 mile distance, and you just won't have that. It won't be feasible. You won't be able to take on those jobs in that area. But by having these small benefits, I guess you can say, you will expand your options to be able to accept more work. They all add up. Having mileage reimbursement, being able to work in person, being able to work from home and bill the same rate, all these things add up. And if you're able to do other forms of interpretation, whether through your own personal contracts that you may obtain yourself, or through the Department of Enterprise, or through the HCA, or through other smaller agencies, then you will always have more than enough work at your disposal. This is complete freedom. This is why we call ourselves independent interpreters. Independent, meaning we choose, we have freedom, we defend it. This is what we want for everybody.
There you go.
I
Independence.
think we're having some difficulties.
Are we? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear just fine.
yeah. I sounded robotic a little bit to myself there. That's why I'm agreeing. But
Oh, I could hear you fine.
okay.
Yeah, we need to test each other how we could hear each other, but yes, we could hear you well.
Okay.
So with that said, then let's jump through the next. Now, the next topic right here is: do you have less access working from home? Less access to jobs working from home, and why? Okay, so if you guys would want to see do the same thing for us, please comment through the chat. Do you have less access to jobs working from home, and why? Anastasio, please.
Meanwhile, as everyone does that, I would like to say that I'm personally contacting providers in my area. I am literally calling them, and when I've been there personally, I've been asking them if they are aware of the Zoom app, or if they have gotten information from ULS or from any other sources from L&I as how to go about doing the telehealth and incorporating interpreters. The majority of providers they're not aware. Their staff is not trained. They like you said earlier, they have chosen to kind of like close shop and just they don't know the process yet. So even if they do jump on by next week or so, we're having this transition phase even with that, to be able to for them to learn to use these systems or platforms in order for us to work from home. That's another thing that we've been doing and will continue to do, is raise awareness or do outreach to so that they can find out tutorials or find information quickly, so that they also learn how to get in contact with us, or set up their system so that they can post their jobs, instead of just saying, well, we won't be using interpreters during this pandemic because it's far too complicated. And this is the issue, a very common situation that is occurring right now, that a lot of providers are saying, this is just not something that we can incorporate with the way we work. It's more cumbersome. It's very, difficult to put a computer in the room or bring a phone in or do some Skype and then everybody be on the same page live. For some providers, that's the feedback that I've gotten, but that's because they haven't seen the platforms, they haven't worked with them, and they're not used to working with them. They just figure my work was a certain way, I'm used to it, they don't feel safe or confident, using some other method. But once they receive more communication from the L&I or ACA or ourselves, they're going to have to incorporate all this stuff, and maybe we can have access to more work. But we have to do the legwork. We have to contact them. We have to remind them. We have to make sure they know.
Thank you, Anastasio. With that said, I want to share an experience that I had this week. And we have to be really careful when we talk about these experiences to reveal some names or to, unintendedly, paint somebody in a negative way, because that's not what we want to do right here. But like Anastasio said, and I think, he just highlighted a very important reality. These providers, they're not really educated on how this works. And they are closing shop. They prefer, their system and wouldn't like to do just video or phone. And they would go with what's easier. Now, you just saw that HCA decided all appointments from DSHS side of things are going to be over the phone. ULS closed in-person appointments. Now, keep in mind that ULS also has L&I work, okay? Has always had L&I work. But you don't get paid more than $25 or $30 an hour, okay? Now, the situation that I experienced this week, and I think I'm not going to mention the network of providers that did this, because we're not sure that, it's not that we're not allowed freedom of speech and all, it's okay. But we don't want to paint anybody negatively. But there was an interpreter that reached out to me saying that, hey, this network of providers right here decided that because of the stay-at-home orders and because ULS offers in-person telephonics appointments for L&I, they're not calling independent interpreters. So they're calling ULS to provide L&I work. So when they need a telephonic appointment or video, they're going to call ULS to provide L&I interpretation through phone appointments. So that's very troublesome because, L&I just established this policy that they would allow us in-person interpreters to work, as you saw, using the telephone or video interpretation and get paid that way, just so we get work and we get paid a direct rate, in-person rates for video, and then the 62 cents a minute, whether or not that's better for telephonics. But when this network decides, nope, we're not even going to use you guys, independent interpreters, what we're going to do is we're going to call ULS. That's very troublesome. And that stems from the fact that many of these providers do not understand this policy. Many of these providers do not understand they have the option to work with us directly. And it's not necessarily because they don't want to deal with us. They go to what's easy. So that network sent a communication to all the affiliate clinics saying, like, from now on, we use ULS for telephonics. Of course, that's not a super big network, but it's an important network of providers, healthcare providers. And so what did we do? We reached out to them. We emailed them. We were able to talk to a couple of them, and they are revising that policy again. So all we can do is defend ourselves, explain to your providers. If you have a business relationship, if you are an agency owner, if you are an independent interpreter, go and talk to your provider. Like Anastasio said, he has been doing, all of us, we're doing this. Go and talk to these providers that you have a business relationship with and say, look, this is the policy from L&I, because L&I is not calling these providers to give them a tutorial about this. They may email them and say, this is available for you, but the ones that are interested in getting work are us right here. We should be doing this legwork, making sure that they know, yeah, let us bill directly and get that money. Don't give it to just one statewide company. Okay, if that's an option, that's an option. But we are an option right here. We need help and we need all the money we can get. Does that make sense? So, with that said, Liana and Veronica, if you want to add something before I go through the chat questions, please.
No, I think you're good.
Think we're good? Okay, so we were going back to the question that says, do you have less access to jobs working from home, and why? And so I'm going to go through some of the answers right here. Not a lot, but Narinder says, yes, no jobs from ULS. Yeah, there's not a lot of jobs right now from ULS as well. Laura Aubrey, prefer in person, but we'll do video or side in the phone. Martha, yes, way less access, no work whatsoever. Exactly, right? And then Araceli said, providers are struggling with different apps. But also clients are struggling to establish connection. There you go. Thank you, Araceli. This is not an issue of just providers. Remember, we're here to serve the patients. And technology has never been friendly to patients. It's an option for remote appointments. It's an option, just to have it there when needed. But even though we are in this emergency and we are considered essential workers, we have to have technology that works and favors everybody. Anastasio, please.
Yeah, which reminds us, right? The intent of that language that we wanted to include, as you pointed out earlier, that we wanted them to make a reasonable effort to come to us first, to reach out to an interpreter first. Of course, we're reasonable people. Of course, we apply common sense. We are conscious that we're in a pandemic, and that video remote and telephonic is a very a good way right now to prevent any spread of this COVID or any other disease. But what if they really like the way it works? They may not like it right now. It may not be very practical right now, but what if they get good at it, right? What if they just decide to run with it after this thing blows over? Then we'll have an uphill battle trying to wean the providers off this technology, you see, because now who doesn't like technology? We do everything with our cell phones, smartphones. You mean to tell me I can get an interpreter like right here, right now? And I mean, yeah, you can't beat that. So that's why we were looking ahead from the beginning of this movement. We wanted to put language into law of the state so that we would be protected from things like these. Sure, if it's a pandemic, bring technology. If it's in the boondocks out there in the middle of OMAC in the northern state by the border, no offense. But if it's over there and you don't have interpreters, the patients have every right to have access to the language of their preference. That's the bottom line. But that's a one in a million, one in a couple of thousand people out in the middle of nowhere. For the most part, technology we shouldn't have to be competing. The physical interpreter shouldn't have to be competing with technology. Since we have an established program for so long already, it works well. Everyone likes it. It's very effective. And to qualm L&I's concerns, it renders a better, it offers better services for their claimants or their patients or their customers when we're in person. It's better than telephonic. But the nutshell of all that, because I know I digress sometimes, is that we want to make sure that the law states, that would be our intent, that we come first, that technology comes second, and once this thing passes over, we want to go back to how it was and have the same options and the same benefits, and we could put video remotes and stuff where it belongs in an emergency situation.
Alrighty, with that said, let's address Araceli right here. Supporting providers through the transition is very important. It requires a lot of coordination and time. And just like Anastasia said, weaning these providers off of it, it's going to be an issue. And so, yes, we have to support providers. They are, our lifeline when it comes to getting work. We don't have a scheduling system yet in the L&I system, and we're fighting to still keep our independence, even if when they establish this scheduling system. So we depend on providers, and they are partners with us when it comes to caring for these patients, providing interpretation services, and getting hours. So yes. And then I see a comment from E. Ramos, 35, Ernesto Ramos, I believe. It says, I can see why providers are hesitant to use cell phones for privacy reasons. That's exactly right. You know, and Anastasio, Veronica has something to say. Go ahead, please.
Yes, if I may add, I've done a few Zoom calls, interpretation through Zoom with a few of the providers, and they actually give you a password to be able to get in. You cannot get in without that password. So it's actually very safe. If that were one of the concerns, privacy, that would be a safe way to go. If they go through Zoom, a password is required. Only the provider, the interpreter, and the patient have access to it.
Yes, it is password protected, but I think also I do remember this experience that I had 6 years ago, I believe, and I went to a company called, and I'm going to say the name because they do this anyways, called In-Demand Interpreting, and I was applying for, to have hours as a contractor, and they were offering me, I believe, 14.50 an hour. I was like, you're going to be offering me $14 an hour, okay, with no benefits, just as a contractor. I have to pay my own taxes. And I remember, the guy saying to me, L&I overpays for you guys, because could you please mute your microphone? And they were saying, L&I overpays to you guys, the state overpays for you guys, and we're lobbying because they could save a lot of money. And so they have these cubicles. Why is this relevant to the privacy thing? Yes, it is a password protected, setting, like Vero said. When we share information, when we're talking to somebody through the video, we don't know if the company or the patient is sharing that video with somebody else. When we do the webinars or this live stream, we have to have a disclaimer to everybody saying that it is illegal in the state of Washington to record anybody without their consent. You know why that is? Because anybody has the technology nowadays readily available for free to screen share whatever you portray on your screen, on your computer, to record video and audio. It's very easy to just violate anybody's privacy. So yes, there are some protections, like Veronica said, but I think these concerns are going to be always there with technology, because nowadays it's becoming increasingly very easy for anybody, not just somebody that's a hacker or a computer programmer or whatever. You have tons of apps and information out there that allows you to just have access to this technology. And Anastasia shared the link with me that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. Before I do that, I'm going to move on to the next topic right here. Okay. And the next topic right here, now that we talked about working from home, if you have less access, we talked about, in-person versus home jobs. And we talked about, I think Araceli, brought up a really good point about making a petition to L&I. That's something, thank you for that, feedback. Now, let's talk about the stimulus checks. Have you received yours? Do you think they should be extended? So before we address this question, we do have a video to share with you, and hopefully technology is not going to fail me this time. We didn't have these issues on the first live stream, but let me have it here. Hold on, please. And it's going to be 7 minutes, and then we'll address the questions. Let's see. Now this is better. Okay.
And so IRS has sent out 80 million checks to be delivered by tomorrow, which is Wednesday, April 15th. A lot of your friends have already gotten theirs or are seeing the pending deposit in their bank account. So if you're one of the 70 million who are not in that first round of checks, in this video, I want to tell you when you can expect to get yours and give you a couple of tips to help expedite the process. But before we jump into this, you probably noticed that things tend to change fast. And if you want to stay informed about these changes, be sure to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss any of my updates. So I think it's notable that 80 million checks went out via direct deposit. At first, the IRS was saying that they had deposit information for about 70 million of the payments, which means that at least 10 million individuals gave the IRS their bank information over the past week. Now, that's a big number, but the IRS's goal is to send out all of these checks via direct deposit. That's not likely to happen, but if 10 million can be added in 1 week, I think that number can easily double when the new web app is open either today or tomorrow. And I'll circle back to that web app in just a second. Now, the IRS is talking a lot about the first 80 million they've sent out, but they haven't been real specific about when everyone else is going to get their check. The first batch was kind of the low-hanging fruit that was easy. Having the direct deposit information on file made sending out massive batches of ACH transactions fairly easy. From this point on, it gets somewhat murky, but I think we can make sense out of what to expect by piecing together several sources of information. Now, here's who should still be waiting on their stimulus checks. Those who are on Social Security benefits and don't typically file a tax return. Those on SSI or only veterans benefits or other government benefit programs. Those who did not provide the IRS their bank information on a 2018 or 19 tax return. And then there's the group that just got missed. Moving forward, here's how the schedule should look according to the House Ways and Means Committee. The next batch of payments should be those who are on Social Security benefits that don't normally file taxes and who have their monthly benefit checks direct deposited. These payments can be expected around the week of April 20th. Then around the week of May 4th, paper checks will start being mailed to everyone else. So if you're not in the first group and you're not on Social Security benefits, you are probably scheduled to receive a paper check unless you take action. These paper checks are going to go out in reverse adjusted gross income order, which means that lower income people will receive theirs first. Since the IRS can only send out about 5 million checks per week, this is going to really slow things down. This isn't what the IRS wants, and I know it's not what you want either. It's not too late to get this via direct deposit. In the April 13th press conference, Secretary Mnuchin said this.
If you do not receive them by Wednesday, on Wednesday we will be launching at irs.gov. Click on irs.gov, go to get your payment. If you filed a tax return in 2018 and 19 or 19, have that information available. You'll be able to ID yourself. You'll be able to put in your direct deposit information. And within several days, we will automatically deposit the money into your account. We want to do as much of this electronically as we can. It's very important in this day and age. It's more secure and you don't have to go to the bank. If you are a Social Security beneficiary, you do not need to do anything. You will get a direct deposit. If you have not filed and did not need to file a 2018 and 19 return, you can go to irs.gov now and enter your information and authenticate yourself.
So it appears that anyone, whether you filed a tax return or not, can still receive your payment via direct deposit and not be forced to wait on snail mail. But you have to go online and use one of the tools they have set up. Once you do that, your payment will go out, according to Secretary Mnuchin, within several days. So let's do a quick side-by-side review of these two tools so you can determine which you need to use, and I'll put a link to both in the description so you can just click on that and access it. The first tool they released is the tool where non-filers can update their bank information. It's specifically designed for those who haven't filed a 2018 or 19 tax return because they are under the normal income limit for filing a return. So if you didn't file a tax return in 2018 or 19, you need to use this tool unless you're receiving Social Security retirement or disability benefit. If that's you, the IRS will get your information from the Social Security Administration and deposit your check into the same account as they use for your monthly benefit check. The only exception to this is for those who are on Social Security with a qualifying dependent. If you have a dependent under the age of 17, you won't receive the $500 for those dependents unless you use this tool to tell them otherwise, or you file a tax return that tells them you have a dependent. The next tool is the Get My Payment tool that's scheduled to be turned on today or tomorrow. And there's really two parts to this. One component is going to be the check tracking. Once this app goes live, you'll be able to put in your Social Security number, date of birth, and mailing address, and then find out the status of your check. So if you're one of the ones that got missed in the first round, you can use this tool to figure out when you should receive your check and then take the action needed. For example, if it says you're scheduled for a paper check, then you know you need to give them your bank information, and you can use this tool to do it. The other component is going to be to allow taxpayers who filed their tax return in 2018 or 19 but did not provide their banking information on their return to submit direct deposit information. So if you've paid taxes and you've never had the reason to give them your bank account, this is the place to give it to them. This is going to give you the opportunity to get it via direct deposit instead of waiting for weeks, if not months, to get it via snail mail. Now, to add your bank account information, you're going to need to gather some information, and I'd recommend getting this together now so you can put it in as soon as this tool is launched, because according to one of the press releases I saw, once your check is scheduled, you will not be able to add your bank information. So if your check gets scheduled before you can add this, then you're going to have to wait on a paper check. So you're going to need your adjusted gross income from your most recent tax return, either 2019 or 2018, the refund or amount owed from your latest filed tax return, and your bank account type, account number, and routing number. There is one thing the app is not going to do that I wish wasn't the case, but I do understand why. You're not going to be able to change bank account information that the IRS already has on file. So if you change bank accounts for whatever reason, that's likely where the payment is going. And they're doing this to avoid fraud, so I get it. I just wish there was another way, but it appears that for now, there's not. So if you haven't gotten your check yet, stay tuned for the release of the Get My Payment app either today or tomorrow. And if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.
When you think of accounting and
Okay. Thank you, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So now Anastasio had shared the link earlier that I shared through the chat, which is to the main IRS page for COVID-19, and then I think Veronica shared another link that gets you directly to what Anastasio wanted to do, which is direct us to the payment to get my payment checking, right?
I believe it's the same one.
The same one? Okay, so let me go ahead and share this with you guys. Hold on, please. Just need to put it up real quick right here. Hold on. I'll share again. Share the screen. All righty, you guys can see this, right?
Yes.
All righty, so it is the same one, I believe. So are we right, Anastasia and Veronica?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's read a little bit about this. It says, get my payments. We're sharing that link through the chat as well. Let me share it right now so we go through it. You guys can see it. Give me a second right here. There it is. Okay. Now, it says check on the status of your economic impact payment right here. Okay. This application will give you information about your payment status, your payment type, whether we need more information from you, including bank account information. You may need your 2019 return if filed and your 2018 return. Okay. Data is updated once per day overnight, so there is no need to check back for more than once per day. So don't be checking multiple times a day. Just once a day. If you don't see any updates, wait until next day. If you receive an SSA, or RRB form, 1099 or SSI or VA benefits, your information is not yet available in this application. You see this? 1099. So all you got to do is click on this, get my payment. But before we click on that, let's read this because a lot of people are getting this message. Reasons you may get status not available. Get my payments will return payment status not available if A, your application doesn't yet have your data, or you're not eligible for a payment. Now, keep in mind that the government is going to send these checks to anybody either through the direct deposit, or through checks in the mail. So you shouldn't be worrying about that. It says get details on why you may get this payment notification. So you click on that whenever you choose to do so. We share the link. But for the sake of this presentation, let's click on the Get My Payment link right here. And it says right here, this U.S. government system is for authorized use only. So, it says this system constitutes consent to monitoring, interception, recording, reading, copying, or capturing by authorized personnel. So you read this, you only use it if you're going to be sharing your personal information. Don't do this for anybody else. That's what I would, caution. Now you click OK, and what do you see here? You have very basic fields, your social security number or EIN number or ITIN number, by the way, your date of birth, street address, zip code, and you continue. For security reasons, of course, I'm not going to be sharing my information here, but this is what you have to do when you click on that link. Thank you, Anastasio. Thank you, Veronica. And, hopefully you guys can take advantage of these links. All righty, so let's go back to the rest of the program. So the question was stimulus checks. Have you received yours? Should they be extended? So please, Anastasio, Veronica, and Liana, go ahead and lead the way, and we'll address some questions and concerns after that from the chat. Go ahead, please. I'll be stepping away for a couple of minutes. If you guys could go ahead, a couple of minutes.
Go ahead, Anastasia, Veronica.
Go ahead, Anastasia.
Thank you. More ideas that we've been contemplating, right, Juan? Well, I guess we can begin talking about this now. Part of the advocacy and ideas that we've been brainstorming is more work in that direction to see if we can petition for further stimulus down the road. I know that the federal government is sending mixed signals. I know that they've been saying that they want to prepare the country to open it back up. I know that they've been talking about potentially going back to business as somehow, but at state level, there's been a lot of conflict with governors and with the specific situation that every state has. Every state is being hit differently. So at the same time, we got the federal government wanting to open up, and we got states that are hardly hit, not ready to open up. So by the time they make up their minds, and depending upon what state you live in and how hard it's being hit, then the natural idea comes out. Okay, we're getting a check, and for some of us, we probably won't see the check at all. So what happens if we keep this going for another month or 2 or 3? So if it does keep going, even though they have planned to open up in about a month, in some places a little sooner, we won't have the same access to work because these recent changes for us to stay home, if you're a HCA interpreter, I mean, you can't work in person, and I doubt that you're going to make sufficient income by working from home. So you're going to be either on unemployment or find something else to do. So trying to anticipate these changes that are negatively affecting us, we were thinking that maybe another petition to help support continued stimulus. In a few words, more checks. The SBA and Payment Protection Fund was about $300 and something billion. I don't have the exact figure, but it was in the high 300 billions. It was used up really quick. We got a message the other day, if you're trying to access another SBA loan, we have they have an announcement there that it's out of funds. I think a couple 2 days ago, I think it was, or something, or maybe yesterday was the last day that you could apply. But the federal government is definitely looking into expanding and adding like another, if I'm not mistaken, another $400 billion to that same fund. It just needs to be ratified by the Congress. Before they do all that, if we're following this and this is definitely affecting us, and we are independent contractors, and from what I see, we're left completely at the end, then somebody's got to stand up right now, point that out, and say, well, if you keep this up, if we keep the country on lockdown like this, and if we're obligated to stay home any further or more months, then we should advocate now for more continued stimulus checks. That's basically what this question is asking here. And I personally believe that we should. I believe that we should all stand up for ourselves, and we should all advocate for further stimulus for everyone, but especially for independent contractors, and especially for independent interpreters. And that's what I have to say in regards to that. I also wanted to say that the links were slightly different. The ones that we shared a little while ago, I shared the general homepage link because if you Google irs.gov, it's going to take you to the front of the page, and then you see the small little option of Get My Payment, which is a little harder to locate. So I just wanted to, make sure that everybody got access from the beginning and not just from our link, because sometimes links break down, or they just they lose their, they break down in the sharing. And I figured if you access the page from the beginning, you can still find a way to checking for your payment. But other than that, if anybody else wants to talk or say anything about this idea of more stimulus checks, please feel free to do so.
No, but I think it's also a good idea. I mean, if we are able to get a little bit more of, the stimulus checks to be able to those interpreters that choose not to risk themselves or their family, or that could have been already affected by it. Which, by the way, did we mention that if an interpreter, for example, gets the COVID-19 while interpreting, I believe you can also open an L&I case. It is to my understanding. So I think we haven't touched bases on that, but I believe you're able to open up an L&I case, being that you were infected during work. So that would be one thing that I believe us interpreters can do, and also just keep on the lookout to see if we get a little bit more help in the time being, until all of this gets better. So.
Yeah, great point. Those are the details that we're working on, all of us, brainstorming all the potential ways that we can be negatively impacted by working in person, as we explained earlier, as far as courageous pay, as they call it, or as I call it, hazardous work pay. We're still working on all that stuff, and we're still pressuring the right organizations, and so that we can be acknowledged with that. But Juan? Can't hear you, Juan.
Can hear you.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
So just wanted to apologize to our staff and you guys. Anastasio did share this link that I shared through the chat earlier, and I thought when Veronica sent this link, it was going to be kind of like the same, but he makes a lot of sense. This is a general link as well. So if you want to use the Get My Payment link directly, you can use the one that we just shared before this one, or you can actually have this one again. I'm sharing it through the chat again. This is the link that Anastasio was referring. Am I right?
Yeah, it's a general IRS link, and you'll get to it however you can. If you just press irs.gov, it'll bring you here. And then as you see to the far upper right corner, it says Get My Payment right there. And once you click on that, you're back at the original link that we shared earlier. There you go. And you're back at this page. So no matter what, you can always get to this section of the check, Get My Payment area. And I figured that's just a little minute difference, but sometimes it helps in case you lose the link, or if the link becomes corrupted for some reason.
There you go. All right, thank you guys. We'll be sharing that link again. Okay, we're back here. So let's go to the program again. It's 1:39, so we're gonna go to the next. It says right here, our meeting with Joel Sacks and L&I staff. You know, this is we had a meeting with Joel Sacks, and that was on the 14th. And of course, you know, I'm going to let Anastasio and Elena, sorry, and Veronica and Liana lead the way right here. We met with Joel Sacks, as you saw in the beginning of this broadcast. We shared with you the presentation of how we petitioned for in-person interpreters and how we took the opportunity to request a meeting. We shared that as well last broadcast. We were talking about if you've been to one of the webinars, we talked about this as well. So we had an opportunity to interact with Joel Sacks, Susan Campbell. We're going to give you right now a detailed list of the people that were there. But why don't you, in the meantime, Anastasio, start sharing with us your feedback and your experience, what you saw from L&I staff, and then Veronica and Liana as well. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Well, it was what I consider a very productive meeting. Anytime the director of a large organization such as Labor and Industries makes time to sit down and have a formal meeting with you, I think it's very important. They are acknowledging us as a organization that's in the running to represent L&I interpreters. That was one of the biggest things that stood out to me, that they're giving us our consideration. They're looking to us for our feedback. They want to make sure that they also don't show any bias between other organizations and ourselves. That was the first thing. The other is that they were explaining what their perspective is on moving forward, as they say, as far as implementing the scheduling system, and as far as what rules they plan on using, and what decisions they have made, what decisions are still to be made, what things can affect those implementing those decisions. We brought up a lot of things as far as a smooth transition. We proposed dual system, of course, where they have their scheduling system, where we still have our ability to bill direct. They were very adamant, I wouldn't say adamant, but they were very pronounced when they said the decision has been made to transition over to a scheduling system very soon. And we all proposed that we do, at least in the meantime, a transition where it's running both systems simultaneously to avoid any work stoppages, to avoid any abrupt or all of a sudden changes, obstacles, problems, people not getting paid, things that we've suffered in the past with other transitions when we were part of other organizations, lack of due diligence, things of the sort. So we want to avoid all this. We want to learn from previous mistakes. We don't want to repeat them. And so we touched upon a lot of issues while they implement this new scheduling system. We want to avoid any bumps in the road, and if we do, we want to be ready for them. We suggested solutions. They definitely made note of our suggestions. They definitely plan on keeping in touch with us and continue this dialogue. They are conscious that we have solutions, not that we're just here talking to them and wanting to know what's going on. We not only know what's going on, but we are letting them know that we're ready for whatever pitfalls they may encounter in the transition. And we also reminded them that we were part of we were the group that added modified amendments to the last bill that states that there's going to be a transition, and there has to be a report by December on whether the system is working, the transition is working fine, or if it's not working, and what should we do about it. So all these things were touched upon during that meeting, many details, and I'll allow some of my colleagues to fill in some of the gaps here and give you their perspective as well.
Alrighty, so Ileana, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that I also feel that it went well. I feel like, they're very I guess transparent in telling us what it is that they're working on. It is a transition, it is a work in progress. So there isn't anything set on stone per se. So we are expecting to hopefully have more, meetings with them to be able to see what comes out of this.
Veronica.
That was all.
You have to unmute yourself.
I just want to say that I think we've all been wondering why L&I hasn't released any information yet or let us know what they've decided or haven't decided yet. I think everybody already knows because we have mentioned it in our last broadcast that they do have a winning agency, but the reason they haven't yet told us anything is because they can't plan things out because the protest period is not over yet.
Okay, so with that said, I'm going to share, also some of the notes that we took. Our beautiful here, Liana and Vero, took some very good notes. And so, one of the things that, can you guys mute yourselves, please? One of the things that we wanted to do is, press for some answers. When I mean press, it's just, ask politely, with a strong suggestion to please, get some answers on some of these things going on. And one of the practical answers that we got is that L&I can't call the winning agency yet to plan things out because there is a protest period, okay? Right now, we learned, we kind of knew about this before. We've heard some, people that were bidding for the contract sharing with us like, hey, we're going to protest this decision for the apparent bidder. And now we confirmed it from L&I. They were hoping to have the scheduling system do many things, but they can't call the winning agency. They can't announce it until the protest period is over. So right now, it looks like they requested more time to analyze some of the issues in those protests. Okay, so there are people protesting at about 3, we were told. And so this investigation it's underway, actually, investigating, the evidence on these protests. So we just wanted to let you know that this is something that they shared with us. The new company, My Language Link, is being investigated. In the basis is the protests and the evidence that people have been sharing with L&I, which has to do, of course, their own personal investigation, but also things that they have seen in our videos that we have posted for you guys to consider. Another thing is that Susan Campbell shared with us that the system will be programmed to show one region at a time, and it will be implemented in phases, okay? So just so you know about this, more practical systems save money, but main concern is quality care. That's what they're worried about. There will not be a commission for the interpreter to pay to the winning agency or agencies. At least of right now, we talked about the fee schedule, okay? And it was postponed until October, the fee schedule revision, because of the COVID-19 situation. One of the things that we proposed, and I think it was Anastasio's idea, because for those that you don't know, those that don't know, Anastasio worked for L&I for a period of time. He proposed, well, why don't we have our own certification program? And if that doesn't look like something you want to do because you don't want to do it with DSHS, at least we proposed, L&I to have some sort of test yearly so interpreters could keep their provider number. So that's a source of revenue that they would get and also pay a compliance department, because they were complaining about fraud. Interpreters were complaining about people abusing the system. Well, you don't have to change the system so much if you just have a compliance department. Another thing is that L&I hopes the winning agency will have the ability to look at the interpreter lookup service to fill jobs that have not been taken by agencies' interpreters. And, that really caught my attention. They hope. We raised the issue that we in the independent interpreters, as of right now, if the system is implemented today, we would be limited to only cover emergency appointments and urgent care situations, right? Well, what happens when a provider has a work conditioning, work hardening, and there is a no-show? They would have to go to the scheduling system because they cannot call us for those appointments right away. They would have to go through the scheduling system to click on a software and wait for an interpreter to show up. But if they allow us to work as a dual system where we have the same access as the scheduling system, providers could say, well, I could call Anastasio or Liana or Veronica or Juan or any of these guys that I have been doing business with for such a long time. They are readily available. I know their availability, and boom. So Susan Campbell said that they hope the winning agency would have the ability to look at the interpreter lookup system to fill jobs that have not yet been taken by agencies interpreters. To me, that's a concern a little bit, because the period to fix this and to make sure that an agency would provide that was the RFP. And they closed it on October. Now they're deciding on a winning agency. In my opinion, it's a little too late to fix this, and hoping it's not going to cut it. But I understand, that's something that they had a lot of pressure to get in. They didn't have a lot of time to work on this, but it is concerning. Okay. L&I is working on developing training specifically for interpreters, like a glossary for L&I, billing workshops. We also proposed as a group, we have a lot of interpreters that have had a lot of experience. I myself do workshops. I have recently been admitted to the DSHS advisory committee. We have a lot of interpreters that have more experience than me. And we told L&I, if you get many of these interpreters that do workshops or have a lot of experience working with L&I staff, you could develop this training, this certification, this test yearly. So you have this revenue, you educate interpreters. Interpreters will be more skilled when it comes to, working compensations, procedures, how L&I works, vocabulary, construction work, all of these things. Another thing is the cost of the scheduling system was less than they expected. There is no anticipated drop in payment this year. And, it's not clear whether or not that would change after this year. But as of this year, it's not changing. At least that's the perception we got from the meeting. L&I plans to continue letting L&I interpreters to get certified through DSHS because they have, they are redoing their database, they have increased their staff, and their main goal is to provide the best medical care to injured workers. And what I'm doing here, I'm going through the notes that we have from the meeting from both Liana and Veronica right here, and I'm going to go to some of the Liana's notes right here. Part of the decision was having in-person interpreters only for emergency appointments. That's true. And, fair would be to allow a scheduling system like you decided and also have an in-person interpreter. We asked for them to reconsider this. It will be revised again, Susan Campbell said, as she had previously said before. This will be reconsidered again. The role of independent interpreters will be reconsidered again once they choose for sure the agency or the agencies in charge of the scheduling system. Okay, final policy will be working closely with the contractor. And so, I think what we got from this meeting is that we must be ready to defend, justify why L&I would benefit from allowing a dual system, okay, where independent interpreters are allowed to work without restrictions. We must keep on defending in-person interpretation. And at that meeting, Joel Sacks was present, Susan Campbell, Tracy Winder, Karen Just, and then our staff. And I think, this is something that we want to carry on participating, doing. We need your support. We need your ideas. Anastasio is going to lead the way now, and then we're going to go to some questions and answers. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. No, something else that I remember standing out while we were having that meeting. When you say right now that we're definitely proposing a dual system, and not only that, but we're actually making them see that it would be a lot cheaper not to even have the scheduling system. Now that interpreters would be able to bill directly and on their own, they would be completely free. They would save at least $1.5 million a year by not employing a scheduling system. If we all remember, Joel Sacks' response at that moment, or their team, was that their priority is not to save money. That's not a factor. Their priority is to make sure that they offer the best service for their injured workers, something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So if their priority is not, well, if their priority is to offer the best service, I remember bringing up this point. Well, if we do a scheduling system and you are going to pay for it, there's a revolving door effect that happens, because through scheduling systems, there's not you don't have the same amount of work, the same access to the same amount of work as you do when you're billing directly or when you're fully independent. You're dependent only on what the portal has for you, and that over the years has proven to me that it doesn't compete with my own ability to generate my own work independently. So as you grow dependent on the portal, and you're only able to see that amount of work, if that's not enough work for you, then as an experienced interpreter, you leave, you exit the pool, you go look for something else. So what happens is this thing called a revolving door effect. You're always having new interpreters coming in, and then you always have experienced interpreters just not sticking around. So how do you want to offer the best service if your method promotes a revolving door effect of not the highest level of interpreters? So you're reducing the interpreters level, by having the scheduling system. The other thing that stood out to me is that we should hold on to this, and I want everybody to pay very close attention to my next words. I want people never to forget what I'm about to say. If the director of L&I has said that money is not a problem, this is what he said: money is not our priority. Saving money is not our priority. Remember those words, because they have contemplated reducing our pay rate. They have contemplated eliminating our mileage. So if in the future they bring this up, they want to reduce our pay and eliminate our mileage, we have to remind them that money wasn't the problem. They've got money to burn. I'm sorry, but this is the way I took it. All right, they've got money. Anastasio, don't tell us that we don't need a scheduling system. 1.5 million, we got that. We got it. That's not a problem. Our concern is to offer the best interpreting services to injured workers. So don't worry about us and our money. We're doing well. I will worry about you doing well if you're trying to come for my pay rate and my mileage. I will. So remember that point in the future.
I believe the phrase they kept saying was quality of care, their interpretive services.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so if you guys through the chat want to chime in, give us your thoughts about this. We have about 2 minutes, but while you do that, we can hang on for an extra 15 minutes. I know some of you got to the live stream late, but we do have more free live webinars for continuing education credits. As you see the banner right here, next week on Saturday, we're going to have another one where we're going to be offering 4 credits, and it's going to be my workshops of interpreter ethics in the L&I system, and L&I billing, becoming a provider. So that's going to be, again, Saturday, starting at 8:15. Soon you're going to be receiving an email with the invitation instructions on how to register. We're working on that, and we're doing the most we can at this time to provide you with enough notice so you guys make plans and take advantage of these free credits. We want to let you know that there will be more details. We're changing the way we're structuring these workshops, but just so you know, these workshops are for free. We have to have everybody individually registering, joining in. You can't share your link with somebody else because the system will show the name of the person that logged in. If you have a husband, a wife, you live with somebody else, and you share the same link with your wife, with your husband, the system will see the same person logged in twice. We have no way to prove to DSHS that you both took the seminar if we only have one person appearing twice. Please understand this. It's not that we don't want to work with you, but we also have guidelines from DSHS that we have to follow. I, as a presenter, in order to keep my certification to present and do these workshops, I have to do things, and go by the rules. And so if you made that mistake and we couldn't give you credits, we're more than willing to work with you and continue giving your credits this way. We haven't had that problem too much, just a couple of interpreters running through this issue, but everybody has to join in individually, log in individually, so we have the registration that way. Also, the system tells us when somebody steps away from the monitor, is not paying attention, logs in and out several times through the broadcast. We understand that we're at home, you may have to run to the bathroom or whatever, but we have a way of telling whether or not you're paying attention. And the whole thing about having these free webinars is so you engage, learn from this, pay attention, and later on, as a sidebar, interact with us and see about our movement. But please keep that in mind. We're going to be sending emails about that for that registration. And then Araceli here says, actually, Ernesto shared his email address with us. I don't believe we have Ernesto. If somebody can write it down, please, so we could include him in the mass email.
I can write it down. Ernesto Ramos. Are we sure his name is Ernesto? Oh, yes, there it is. I see it.
Thank you. And then we're going to address Araceli's question right here. Can Washington Interpreters Organization start a general fund, I think you meant with D, but that's okay. A general fund for interpreters with financial emergency needs. Wow, Araceli right here. She's stealing our thunder. Look at you. We've talked about this before a little bit here and there. We've been prioritizing some of these things. Looks like, you have some kick butt ideas right now, so keep kicking it. Thank you. I'm going to let Anastasio address this because I know he's pumped up to answer this, so go away.
Wow. Why you got to throw the hard ones at me for? So let's, how do we address this one? Okay, you guys asked for it. So we are currently, as a nonprofit organization, we are currently applying for grants that we would qualify for as a nonprofit. Our intentions are to look out for our fellow interpreters. Our intentions are to help advocate, as you see, and of course, these circumstances would arise, and we would definitely our intention would be to help our colleagues in every way possible, depending upon the funds that are made available to us, of course. Now, as everyone knows, or if you didn't know, Washington Interpreters has not taken any donations, not a dime. We don't take money, we don't take dues, and we want to keep it that way. On the contrary, we've been offering free webinars and free podcasts and information. This has been all volunteer work. So we want to stand out. We want to make sure that people understand that we're serious about advocating and that we're not funded by any particular group, that we're not funded or into any political schemes, that we don't have a hidden agenda, that we're here simply as interpreters just like yourselves. We're every day full-time working interpreters just like you that just came together and started a new movement with the intention to give those that feel that they haven't been heard or that their voice hasn't been heard in other organizations or at all. This is your movement. This is where your voice manifests itself, and this is where you can complain, and this is where you can give feedback, and this is where you can do something from your perspective. So yes, we do contemplate helping members, participants, our colleagues, whatever we want to call ourselves. We do plan, or we do hope, I would say, to be able to offer more benefits in maybe by these grants that we qualify for. But that doesn't mean that we're going to be handing out cash or anything like that, because we ourselves we need influx of funds to keep going. But we're not going to ask you for money, everything we do is volunteer, and we want to make sure that we can give you these well, we want to continue to advocate for you as much as possible. So we want to stay solvent. We're not as big as those organizations, and definitely that idea has been in the mix. We are working on something like that, and if it was up to me, yes, I would act like Uncle Sam and try to help people as much as possible. And if there was those funds available, definitely we would definitely try to help people in need. That would be the diplomatic, politically correct response to, I would give you money, but that's not my decision to make. And hopefully the rest of the team can also give in their opinion as to this.
Yes. Well, as Araceli was asking, can we do that? Well, like Anastasia just said, in a sense, no, we can't, unfortunately. However, this is why we're providing you with all the information that you need, or if you know of people, interpreters that are in an emergency, that have an emergency need, to go to these places. All the things that we have been providing for you today and that we will be providing for you in the future, go help them. Maybe if you can, how to sign in or how to apply or what other things you can.
I believe she fell off there.
Yeah, I believe she did disconnect. If I may address one of the questions from Ernesto, he's wondering what the length of. Oh, there she's back. Sorry.
Not sure what happened. I'm sorry. Again,
Oh,
technical
go
difficulties.
ahead.
But go ahead. I was just saying that this is the way that we are trying to help, is by providing information as to where to apply and where to get the funds that we all desperately need at these times. And I'm sorry. Go ahead, Veronica.
I'm going to add to what she just said. As you guys already know, we're all volunteers. We all try to look up and find information to share with you guys. So if you guys find any other resource that we haven't yet shared and you guys want to email that to us, that would be great as well. That way we can share it with the rest of our colleagues. Now, I do want to address the question that Ernesto's question, what's the length of the live webinar next Saturday? I believe it's 4 hours, right? Plus your lunch break.
So yes, to answer to Ernesto, he asked about how long it's going to be for Saturday. We're still determining that, but we have to provide an hour per credit of workshops. So 1 credit it's 1 hour. So 4 credits, that's going to be 4 hours no matter what. And then we take into account breaks and participation if we have a special guest. So it's about 5 hours, give or take. Okay, so we try to make it short, sweet, and to the point, so we don't have you guys staring at the screen the whole day. But you could say 4 to 5 hours, maybe a couple of minutes extra, maybe not, but that's pretty much the length of things. We have to have breaks and participation as well. But yes, we're going to be emailing you no later than Monday morning, hopefully tonight or tomorrow, but no later than Monday morning. We're going to mass email everyone. Thank you, Nahid, for sharing your email address. If somebody can write it down, please, and provide it to me later so we can.
I already wrote it down.
Thank you. With that said, I think, we have come to the end, unless some of us from our staff wants to address something else or address some of the questions right here. We can hang on for 10, 15 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do want to address something. There's a lot of people, I see a lot of the names on here that are coming up that actually attended our workshop. So I do want to let them know that we're still working on certificates. I know we've been getting that question quite often. I sent out a few last night and a few this morning. We're still working on them. We expect to have them all out by the end of the week. So if you guys, and then one more thing, I've been replying to emails, and I have noticed that if we don't reply to an email that day, we get the exact same question the following day. That just kind of slows down our reply. If you guys could just ask the same question on the same email, that would be awesome.
Now we have a question from Ian Flux. This is Laura Aubrey, and I think it's very fitting to, at least give an answer right here. It says, did you ever have the chance to find out who in L&I has a personal gain in choosing this agency that won the bid? Quote unquote, won the bid. I'll tell you this personally, and I'll let Anastasia, Liana, and Vero, they'll probably back me up on this. We are on it. It's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly where this manipulation comes from when it comes to, push a certain company, but I think we have been doing the best we can to expose at least connections. We cannot accuse a person or an entity to gain from something, but what we could do is connect the dots, share the connections, so you guys decide who stands to benefit the most from some of these companies having access to our contract, our future contract in the L&I system. If you watched my last video, by the way, when I make a video, is based on suggestions, ideas, emails, information, not only from our board, but from people that share this, whistleblowers that are like, hey, you guys, have at it, right? And so if you saw the last video, you see that we established some connections with Mr. Eduardo Sardibar, owner of One Lingua, also a registered owner of My Language Link, Marisa Gilio, president of My Language Link, and these two individuals also having connections to local 1671 leaders. And so that's right now what we're going off of it. And also some new information that we received, but we have to vet this information. We have to make sure that what we have it's something that we can share, so we're not accused of, accusing or, making false allegations. So I hope that answers your question. Anastasio, Liana, and Vero, if you want to chime in on that one.
I'm okay. I think you did a pretty good job explaining that one.
Yeah, so I'm good.
Yeah, if they want to go watch our YouTube video, what's our YouTube channel?
Yes, we'll share it right here. Anastasio, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the question, the way it's stated there is, did you ever have a chance to find out who in L&I? Well, personally speaking, let me tell you that Juan mentioned that I worked at L&I previously. He didn't say what I did there. So I would like to let people know from now on that I was a civil rights investigator within Labor and Industries, and I also worked in their internal audit department. And that I don't like mentioning that, because that's who actually audits interpreters for their wrongdoing. But while I was in the civil rights department, my department had jurisdiction over every employee at L&I, including Joel Sacks himself. Jurisdiction meaning if there was a civil rights violation committed by, or if it was found or one was registered, we had to investigate it. I'm not going to talk about those confidential investigations that were done out of respect to those people. And I've been gone out of there for quite a while, so I don't see any potential problem, but I'm not going to disclose any details anyway. But I can tell you that many people there were interviewed, and there was some investigations done. And I can tell you that from my perspective, they trained me to be an investigator. So when we do our investigative work, they know what level of competency it is. They know how we come down to the bottom, how we gather our information, that we're not making things up, and that we're going and using the same processes that they would. This they know. So having said that, I'm more concerned, personally speaking, about other organizations outside, not L&I itself. I'm more concerned with other organizations, other labor organizations, having relationships that, as you saw in the YouTube videos that Juan has posted. I saw the videos just like everyone else. So when I see those videos, I make my own conclusions. I draw my own conclusions, and from what I see is that there was always ongoing relationships with people in other labor organizations, and with this supposedly successful winning bidder, My Language Link. So when you put those things together, whether it's illegal or not, that's beside the fact. It's the fact that there's an obvious conflict of interest. When you're a member of an organization where you pay dues to, and they use your accumulated leverage or power for their own personal gain, well, I said that before. It's up to you if you want to belong to some organization like that, where maybe you're not heard. Because I have this investigative background, I saw that when I was there, and I was opposed to it. I signaled it out. I mentioned that it was a conflict of interest to promote any business that, or to engage in any business with using our members. Yeah, that's something that I wouldn't do. If I wanted to do that, I'll leave this organization and I'll start my own business and I'll do something else. But I wouldn't use, members and participant supporters for my personal gain. I wouldn't do that. But that's me. So I wouldn't go into the L&I. I haven't looked into L&I. Personally, I don't think there's anyone at L&I that has anything to do with this. But I do have my suspicions in other places, which Juan's video clearly points out.
All right. Well, with that said, we want to say thank you to all of you for sticking with us. It's 2:15. We were here for 15 extra minutes to interact with you, answer questions, and still address your concerns. Thank you for being with us. Our program ended at 2. We stuck around a little bit, and we're going to be mass emailing you with the next webinar, which is the 25th. Thank you so much. If you're gonna,
Thank you.
say goodbye.
Bye.
It was a pleasure once again, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.